Hi everyone, this is Tony, KD8RTT, and I'm going to show you how I set up my Whisper software to use. So as you can see here, towards the bottom, Whisper, spelled WSPR, stands for Weak Signal Propagation Reporter. This program is designed for sending and receiving low-power transmissions to test propagation paths on the MF and HF bands. Users with internet access can watch results in real time at whispernet.org. We'll check that out in a little bit. Then it goes on to say some of the version stuff. So if we go ahead and click this link, it brings us to the main description page of Whisper. There's a couple different versions. I'm using 2.0. 2.11 lets you use SDRs and some other stuff. And Whisper X is a kind of a new way of doing it. New method, a little bit longer transmit, receive. So that's a little different. But I'm going to be using Whisper 2.0. That's kind of the standard version right now. So if you go ahead down here and download it, that's the first step. And you can see up above it's available at physics.princeton.edu/pulsar/k1jt/wspr.html. That'll bring you to this page. So here is the machine that's running this. So I have this set up where I have another machine in my house connected to all my radio stuff and the internet, and it's kind of acting as a server. So that's useful because I can set this thing up to run all night or all day without having to sit there with my laptop and leave that connected. So I'm remote connected to the computer that'll be running everything, but that's not a big deal here. So once I've like I said, you can see I've got it downloaded. I also use Ham Radio Deluxe. That lets me remotely control a lot of things, and also set the frequency, pretty easily, and all that kind of command type stuff, all the cat control. So I'm using a Yaesu FT450D. I've got both cat control, like I said, so I can control the functions. Also, I've got a sound card. The sound card is very important. We'll get into those settings in a second. So here we are. This is what my radio is currently set at. It's on 40 meters. And then we'll have to change a few things here probably, but we'll go ahead and open the Whisper software. Now, I've noticed that the software just won't open unless I right-click and run as an administrator or be signed in as an administrator. So that's bear that in mind. It just won't let you run it otherwise, so might have to deal with that. So here's the basics screen. The first thing to do is make sure this is checked idle. That prevents it from starting the transmit receive cycle and basically start running. So check that. It's probably already checked. This is the first time opening the software for you. The other thing that's important to do right now before you forget is to check this upload spots. That uploads everything you receive to the internet, which we'll go to the website in a bit where you can see that. And that basically lets everyone else see the spots you've picked up. So go ahead and check that. The major setup is found under Setup Station Parameters. So you gotta type in your call sign, your grid square, your audio in and out. I'm using a signal link. So I have that set there. And I also have the settings on the signal link set, just as I would for doing like PSK or another digital mode. Then you have to set the power level. So the whole point of this is typically to use low power to see where there's band openings. So the lowest my radio goes down to is 5 watts, so that's what I use. And here it wants it in dBm. There's a bunch to select from, and there's charts and calculators online to figure out what the watt to dBm conversion is. But it's very important that this is accurate to what you're transmitting at. And then you have a push to talk method. I'm using Vox because it's a signal link, but you can also do cat control and other sorts of things. And like I said, this software will let you do cat control natively within the software. It's a little. I haven't been able to get it to work with my 450D, and I haven't really spent a lot of time on it. But it's supposedly works. I've heard other people use it just fine, which it's pretty convenient if it does. So that's all the settings you really have to set here. So let's go ahead to Ham Radio Deluxe and make sure everything's set properly. So we're at 5 watts RF power. Actually, the frequency. So a couple things. First off, it's always upper sideband for this, no matter what band you're on. Always upper sideband. And then you have to find out the frequency to set it to. So if you go to bands up here, it gives you the list of all the bands. I'm going to do 40 meters. So we're already set there. And what that does is right here, it'll set these values. It'll tell you the dial frequency, which is what you set on the radio. And then the transmit frequency is within, this is a very narrow bandwidth signal. So this tells you where exactly within the waterfall you're going to transmit. This red line indicates where you are approximately. You'll see in a bit, but it'll show a waterfall up here with where the signal is received. So you're going to want to move your transmit frequency to wherever you find something, a clear area. To do that, you'll just find a spot, double click, and it'll ask you to confirm your setting there. So the first time, you can just kind of pick the middle or something like that. And then you're going to set your radio to the dial frequency here. Looks like mine already is. So we're good to go there. Now this TX fraction, this is going to be defaulted to 20%. That's the percentage of the time it transmits versus receives. 20%, you probably will leave it there. If you're not getting a whole lot of activity on the band, you can move it up to like 25 or a little bit more. But you don't want to transmit too much, so that way you can constantly be decoding a lot from other people. Okay. So then when all this is set up, go ahead and unclick idle. Now it's going to wait for the next even minute here to start its cycle. Now this is a good time to say it's very important that your computer clock is set to the correct time. I recommend using one of the internet synchronization methods within your OS to make sure you have the right time. But this entire system is based on 2-minute intervals, and your clock has to be pretty close to being exactly synced to basically all the other people in order for it to work properly. So this is still waiting to start. When this comes to 2052, it's going to start by receiving for 2 minutes, and then you'll kind of see what you've heard. And then after that, it's going to transmit, and then from there on, it's going to set the 20% of the time it's going to transmit versus receive. So we'll go ahead and wait here to start receiving. Okay, so we're almost ready to start receiving now. And you'll see down in the bottom here, it's going to change what it says. Okay, so now it says receiving. Now, there's one more thing you have to set here. You see this RX noise level. You want that to be about 0 dB. That's set by the volume going into your sound card from your radio. So I've used this before, and that's why I found this level to work. You want it within 10 dB of 0. So if you're outside of the 10 dB range, like up here, it's going to turn red. If you're too quiet even, it should, same thing. It'll show it on the other way. So you want it to be about 0 dB. That's the optimal range for it to decode signals. So you're going to set that, and it's going to do its, and meanwhile, because this is all done on timing, it's been doing its 2-minute receive cycle. And once that's up, you'll see some stuff on the waterfall. So we'll go ahead and wait another minute. Okay, this 2-minute cycle is almost done here. So now it says decoding and waiting to start. It's going to start transmitting in about 2 seconds here. Okay, so now it says it's TXing, so it's transmitting our signal. And meanwhile, it's still decoding. As you can see in the waterfall here, that'll show your activity. And in the second here, when it's done decoding, if we pick up anything, it should pop up in this window. Okay, we're nearing the end of this transmit cycle. As you can see, it didn't really decode anything this first time running, so we'll go ahead and let it decode again through the next cycle. And you'll notice it stops transmitting about 6 seconds before the 2 minutes is up. All right, so now it's back to receiving. So now we finished a full transmit cycle. So now we can go check to see if our signal was picked up anywhere. So the easiest way to do this is to go over to WSPRnet.org. You'll come to this page. Go over here to the map. Okay, now I currently have this still set for my call sign, conveniently, actually, but you can set the band you want to search for, the call sign that's involved. So this is both transmit and received. Longitude, latitude kind of shows you the centers of the map. So let's do the last 10 minutes to make sure this is just this round. Go ahead and update it. All right. So it looks like this is where my signal was received. All right. So if you click on my location, this is me, KD8RTT. I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. Heard by, and it shows you all the stations I was heard by. So it looks like everything you're seeing, each one of these points, are all places I was heard. If I heard them, it'll be similar. It'll post them. Same kind of idea. I'll put points and a line between them, and if you click on them or me, it'll tell you basically who was heard and who heard it. And so we're still going through that receive cycle here. So we'll let this finish out, and then we'll see again if I heard anyone else this time. But like I said, this is on 40 meters. You can change any of these filters down here. You can do all. If you get rid of my call sign, this will show you all the whisper on activity on all the bands. It's kind of a mess, so you're definitely going to want to filter it out. So we'll go ahead back to mine on 40. But yeah, you can see this is useful because you can predict, what bands are open and not. And a lot of people will tend to use this on the radio because they can let it run all day while they're not there. Okay, so it's decoding. Hopefully we'll get something this time. You can see again the waterfall. Those green lines are transmit. Okay, so it doesn't look like we got anything that time. Let's see. Just want to make sure everything's set up right. All right, well, I'm going to let this run for a little while, and I'll come back with an update showing what we got and where we were heard at the end here. But so that's all for the basic setup. It's pretty easy to do, and it's really cool to see how the signals are propagating. You can do this on all the bands, essentially. Here shows the dial frequencies. Also in the software, if you change the band, it'll tell you where. It's very important that if you do change the band of operation, you change it in the Whisper software, because that's when you look on the map on WhisperNet by band, it's correlated with what you have selected in your software here. So if you're changing bands, it's very important that you change that too. But otherwise, if you want to change bands, just change the frequency on your radio, change the frequency right here in the software, and you're good to go. It's that easy. So like I said, I'm going to let this run for a little while, and then we'll come back and see what we got. Okay, so here we are a little bit later, a few hours later. And as you can see on the waterfall, we've had a lot more activity. And also, as you can see under here, we've picked up quite a few stations. And you can see right away frequency, call sign, grid square, and time, and signal strength, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, we picked up quite a few. So if we go over to the map now and take a look what we got. Map. Okay, wow. Quite a bit of activity. Now the bolder the line, I believe that's the more, the more frequently they heard. So there's been a greater exchange with the bolder lines. So a lot of these stateside contacts, there's much bolder because I'm hitting them more consistently. But yeah, so if you click on my call sign, you can see hearing all the people that I heard at my QTH. And then heard by, of course, is everyone else who's heard me. So that's quite a big list. And it's really neat because, as you can see, this afternoon into this evening here in Cleveland, 40's open to Europe pretty well, but not very, not open out west, really. which is a pretty useful kind of thing. You can see where you can hit. So I've done this a couple other days. I ran this for a few hours, and of course, other times I've gotten much more activity in the U.S. I've on 40 with this. I've made it to Australia before, so it's just a pretty cool tool just to see how things are propagating. So that's about it. Like I said, this is not too tough of a thing to try. It's kind of fun to do. So if you have any questions, you can shoot me a message here on YouTube or head to my blog and send me a message. And yeah, so thanks for watching.